Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney. All right, guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney. I got Blake and Barbara here. You'll be very interested to hear this story. We got a great couple. How you doing today, guys?
We're good.
We're good.
How are you?
Awesome. So the intro I thought about for like 2 months. So I'll tell you how I met these guys. You know that couple that you meet and they live in a tropical place and you hate them? You really hate them. And you want to know how they got there. Well, I met Blake and Barbara because I rented their Airbnb in Costa Rica when me and my wife went and visited Omar, my friend. And what we're going to talk about today is how they wound up in Costa Rica with a bunch of Airbnbs. They lived in Australia. And we're going to talk about, a lot of you that listen to this podcast, you're sitting in a 9-to-5, you're sitting in a cubicle, and you've always wondered how to go live that life or do that dream. And maybe this is the time, maybe this is the story that will inspire you to, maybe quit that 9-to-5 and go after that dream you always wanted. So guys, why don't you tell us about because you're from the States, right?
Yes, we are both from Kansas.
Both from Kansas of all places too. So not even you didn't even go from the coast to the Costa Rica. You went from the middle of the state. So how did this all start?
So do you want me to go or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay, so it all started back in 2009. And we didn't know each other, but we had both decided to study abroad in Prague, which is in the Czech Republic in Europe. So that's kind of how we met. We met in this situation where we had both decided to kind of jump out of our comfort zones, move to a foreign country for a semester, and study and live. So yeah, we met traveling around Europe.
So you met in Prague.
That's right.
Wait, hold on. Back it up.
Okay.
You're both from Kansas? Not the same city, right? No.
Not the same city.
But the same state, right? Randomly, and you meet in Prague.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. Meant to be just a bit. Yeah.
Well, and something that's even more weird is that we have two mutual friends, Nick and Michael, who I went to high school and grade school with. And then Blake became friends with them in college. So while we're all in college, Nick and Michael are telling me, like, you need to meet our friend Blake. I can't believe you haven't met Blake. And then they're telling him the same thing, like, oh, you haven't met Barbara yet? Like, oh my gosh. And then Michael finally told me one day, like, oh, Blake's going to study abroad in Prague. So you guys will meet, like, finally in Prague of all places. And so it was kind of funny because our friends were trying to, like, hook us up before we had went over to Prague, which was really random.
So you're in Prague.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spent 4 months traveling, studying and traveling. Light on the studying, though. We only had classes, maybe, I think it was like 3 days a week. And
I think so. And it was like an hour a day or maybe 2 hours.
Yeah, and they encouraged us to travel. They knew we were there to see the sites. So we spent basically 4 months just traveling around Europe and seeing all the sites. And then...
And first of all, the Czech Republic is super cheap.
Okay.
Like you can get like a liter of beer for less than $1.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, living there and traveling around Prague itself was super cheap. Plus in Europe, we were finding like 19 euro flights to Greece and stuff.
Amazing. And that's what people don't understand. So what I want to focus on is you're from Kansas.
Yes.
And have you ever left Kansas before you went to Prague?
We both travel a little bit, but
a little bit.
Like, down to the Caribbean and Mexico and stuff. But,
spring breaks with our family.
So a little bit. So there was no hesitation. You just knew that you wanted to travel, right? So.
Yeah, I think for me, like I was super lost in my life when I was a junior in college. I was partying a lot, kind of in an unhealthy relationship. And for me, I just needed an escape. I needed to get away and go
reset.
somewhere.
Yeah,
exactly.
Reset. Yeah, reset. And when you what, like, so this is the joke around me is if you're young, if you're like 20 or 19 and you talk to me, I will make you move to Europe. It's just like I'll charge you. I've even offered to pay for people's plane tickets, right? Because there is something about when you separate yourself out of your norms, right? And the reason I say that is like, you don't really know what you don't know until you remove yourself from your day-to-day kind of operations. And it opens up parts of you that you didn't even know existed, right?
Definitely. So much of our thoughts and our actions are habitual. Mm-hmm. And until you put yourself in a different place to think differently and to be forced to act differently, you don't really know yourself. That's what I found, at least.
Mm-hmm. So you're in Prague, you're for 4 months, and then what happens after that?
So we go on.
After that, we just go back to our university. We both went to Kansas State University, which we
go Wildcats.
And we had Barbara had another year and a half left, and I had 2 years left, and then so we finished up university.
We started dating pretty much right when we got back from Prague.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And, just finished up university, and when I graduated in 2011, we got married
that same year.
That same summer, in September, and then we moved back to my hometown, Mulberry, Kansas, which is my family is our cattle ranchers.
And how many people is in that town?
Maybe like 400 max.
400
max. Okay. That's like max. Yeah. So
the idea of Prague, just as an idea, is probably swirling around in your head while you move back, right?
Definitely. Yeah. So Blake moved back, and he was working on the farm, and then I was teaching. So I taught 5th grade in another small town, Girard, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Just like 15 minutes from where.
So I'm going to stop there for a second, because the reason I say this is because I grew up in Houston, but when my parents divorced, I moved out to a small town like that, probably smaller, to be honest with you. It took 3 cities to make up one high school, and there was only 100 people in my class. And the reason I want to stop there is because we could not be having this conversation. I'm sure I would have still met y'all. But you're a teacher. He's working on the farm. You could have stayed there, and nothing would have changed. It's not a bad life. It's not like it's terrible, right? So I'm interested to see how this story changed, because it could be a totally different trajectory.
Yeah. So we were living in Kansas. We actually lived and worked there for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we traveled every summer to Europe for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we'd go back to Prague and just do things and. It just wasn't enough for us.
Yeah, so it got to the point about 3 years in, it got to the point where I looked at Blake one night, and I was crying, of course. And I was like, Blake, I just feel like if we stay here, my whole life is written out for me. I know exactly what we're going to do, when we're going to do it. We're going to build a house. We're going to have kids, blah, blah, blah. We didn't even know if we wanted to have kids.
Yeah,
so we
like, kind of, what you do.
Yeah, we felt super disconnected. Okay, like we're really close with all of our friends and family back in Kansas, but we've always felt kind of misunderstood. Like we've talked about this, like both of us growing up and just living in Kansas, we always felt just kind of a little different. Like we didn't really fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Like people didn't really kind of understand us. Plus, we had met with this amazing experience of traveling and so much freedom, and we were just doing whatever we wanted. And so we were at a point in our lives where our income was great. We had a really high income, but it wasn't making us happy.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of long conversations. Okay, what can we do to kind of find this happiness that we're looking for, or this like adventure that we're looking for?
And something I want to stick on, happiness doesn't, like you're making good money. So happiness never revolved around the dollar amount that you were making.
Exactly. Oh, no. Exactly. Because financially we were like, A-okay, and we were doing exactly what was expected of us. We got married, we were working full-time jobs. And then so the next step was kind of people expected us to start popping out kids,
Yeah.
We were like, whoa. So then I was Googling, and I think I was Googling things just like, I want to move abroad, or like things like this, how to work in another country. and the working holiday visa came up.
Okay.
New Zealand.
Yeah. So, then I found that we were allowed to do the working holiday visa in New Zealand or Australia.
And so what does that mean for people that don't know?
It's basically, it's a visa that's good for, you can apply for it. I know the New Zealand one is free. You apply for it, you're almost granted, like for Americans and Canadians, it's almost instantly. And then from the moment of getting the visa, you have 1 year to enter the country. And once you enter the country, they stamp you in, and you can legally work and stay in the country for 1 year. And you pay taxes, and you're just like basically like a citizen there. You have to provide your own health care, though. Okay. And then,
it's basically just a visa that allows you to work and live in the country for 1 year.
Okay.
Because most tourist visas are only like 90 days, and you can't work on a tourist visa, obviously. So this gives you working rights.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we started. And then we just picked New Zealand because it was like, well, nobody's been to New Zealand. We never dreamed we would ever go to New Zealand. So like, let's start there. Why not?
So what are the parents and what are the friends saying? Like, they probably don't even know where New Zealand is on the map, first of all. Second of all, what the hell are you thinking? I'm sure that was the conversation multiple times.
Yeah, this probably was like, it probably took about,
I'd say a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half to get from thinking about it to getting it all done. Because, we started researching for the first few months, not even knowing if we wanted to do it. And then one day we were like, okay, we're going to do this. And that was about a year before we did it.
Because, we had to sell our house. We had to sell our car. We had to quit our jobs. Like, there's a huge process that we had to go through.
And the reason I keep drilling down on certain points, because I'm sure people have dreamed or thought of many times. The whole purpose of my podcast is to construct a life that you want, not what anybody else wants. Is there any part of you that almost didn't go? Like,
not really. Like, we got it in our minds, and we were like,
but then pretty much instantly we were like, we're going, like, we're doing this.
But it's funny when you ask about like friends and family and kind of their reactions. And so it was really funny. We just kind of told people, like one night at dinner, talking to Blake's family, like, hey, we're going to quit our jobs and we're going to move to New Zealand. We found this working holiday visa, and we start talking about it. And they're like, like, okay. And we're told friends and like my family, and everyone just laughed and kind of thought, oh, Barbara and Blake, what dreamers, oh, so typical of them kind of thing. But nobody took us seriously. Mm-hmm. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to quit today. I have my resignation letter. And then everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're serious? Like, you guys are actually doing this? And we were like, yeah, like we're. Did
they support you or not?
They really did. We're very fortunate.
Everyone supported us.
And especially, I think it needs to be said that Blake, like it already has been said, that he's from a small town farming family. And not only that, so his dad built his cattle company from the ground up. Mm-hmm. And Blake is the only boy in the family. He's the only son.
Yeah.
So for Blake to say that he didn't want to live on the farm and it wasn't for him, like I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it. Mm-hmm. It was really hard for Blake and his dad, I think.
And there's never been any, like, he's supported it, or wow, that's amazing. That's hard. Yeah.
He may never have told us, like, oh, guys, go out and do that. But he never, ever once said, like, I wish you would stay or anything like that.
Yeah.
And the thing is that this is very important. And I want to, because I've been dealing with this my whole life. There is a sort, I'm helping a guy right now. I coach some people. People don't understand that validation of other people's opinions is probably the number one factor in 90% of people's decisions.
100%.
It might be 100%. And when you can get to a point in your life to make a decision for yourself, because it's what you want. Look, the life that me and my wife want, or you want with Blake, is so much different than what normal people want, right? Like, I want multiple houses in Spain, and everybody would look at that and go, that's so dumb. You don't need that. But that's not for you to decide. Like, it's for me to decide. And when you can remove yourself from seeking validation and seeking only the validation of what you want, it's a very freeing moment.
Definitely.
Exactly.
And there were definitely some like eye rolls or questions about like finances and
Sure.
how we were going to go from 2 full-time incomes, salary jobs to essentially just
So I'm gonna go full psychology on you for a minute. What You
Okay.
know why that is? It took me a long time to figure this out.
Okay.
People in your life are 100% more comfortable with you being where you are. And when you change, meaning you lose weight, you stop drinking, whatever that is, it makes them look at themselves in the mirror, and then their whole world has changed, right? Because comfort level is so much easier.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely. And when somebody else is changing and like moving away from this dot, let's say we're all at this dot, and when somebody leaves this dot and they're moving, yeah, it's hard for those people that are standing still.
Mhm.
And, you know, our purpose was never to make anybody feel as if what they were doing wasn't correct or wasn't right for them. It's just that what they were doing wasn't right for us.
Amen.
And it wasn't the job the life that we wanted
Yeah.
to create and that we wanted to live.
So you sell everything. You're in. By the way, side note, I didn't even know it was New Zealand where you started. My dream is to do an Ironman in New Zealand.
Oh, Austin, you will love New Zealand.
It's gorgeous. I just watched something on it. I literally, it was something about like remarkable houses. And this guy had this ridiculous house in this cove. And I was just like, oh my goodness, that's not even right. So
it's typical Kiwi.
the trainer that I do all my Ironman training with, the running and everything, he actually went to college in New Zealand.
Okay, awesome.
He was on the running team. So you sell everything. I mean, it's not even like, this is what cracks me up. It's not like you're going to like Spain where there's like a whole country. Like it's a little island. Like,
yeah,
so,
2 little islands.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you plop down in New Zealand, and then what happens?
So we plopped down, and our immediate response was to like freak out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like we were both just like kind of walking around Auckland, which is not the capital of New Zealand, but the biggest city in New Zealand, where we landed. And it was like we weren't talking, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And then finally I like looked at Blake and I was like, what did we do? He was like, I don't know. Like, did we make? And so we just kind of had that moment where we were like, did we make the right decision? Like our lives weren't that bad. What were we thinking? You know, because now all of a sudden you're in a foreign country. Nobody knows you. You don't have friends. You can't just walk into a place and they like assume you're a good person because you're so-and-so's daughter or because you know so-and-so. So it was, which growing up in Kansas, you know, in a smaller town in Kansas, that's kind of what we're used to. So anyways, we struggled at first, just kind of with this idea, and it was just a lot to process. And it's also like when you let go of an old life, when you shed that skin, it's super hard, I thought, like mentally, just to let go of that salary, to let go of that cushion income. And, you know, the money's not coming in anymore. And that's kind of like, you know, you have that like stress. But anyways, we got over that and we started house sitting.
Yeah, we found a free place to live because we were house sitting it was a website called Kiwi House Sitters. Yeah. And we just made a profile on there, and pretty soon people started asking us because, you know, they're going away for 3 weeks and they have a cat. They wanted to.
So all you had to do was sit in somebody's house. I'm sure some of them were really nice, and you made money.
Exactly. So they would go on holiday and we would, and the thing is, Austin, these houses were like awesome. Like
anybody that needs somebody to sit their house, it's probably a damn good house, you know?
Yes, like and it was awesome too, because what we were looking for in New Zealand was to get like the true Kiwi experience, which is getting out into the countryside and kind of out of Auckland. And so it was just so awesome and amazing because we got to stay at all these incredible houses out in the countryside and like essentially live their life. So like one of the people we house out for was a 90-acre sheep farm.
Amazing.
So we didn't have to take care of the sheep. They had like somebody doing that, but
we lived on the sheep farm and it was very interesting.
It was awesome. We just took care of their dogs and lived for free. And then what we did was we just found like little remote jobs. So we were doing gardening jobs, We planted hops.
Yeah, we worked on a hop farm. We picked strawberries. We basically
I worked on an orchard.
Yeah, any type of. We did maintenance work for people, just like helped them out. It was just like a really easy, fun, laid back. And
and I'm telling you, we were doing these jobs, which before living in America would have been like frowned upon jobs if we were doing them. But I'm telling you, it was like the happiest we had ever been.
And so I guess you're breaking a routine of what's accepted in America, is working. I think there's a happy median, because I don't love Spain is fine, but I don't think anybody works in that country. But but you're breaking almost a mentality too, right?
Definitely.
Of what you need to be doing every day. When I was at my bottom with drugs and all that stuff, and didn't have anywhere to live, I lived in a closet and for a month, and I laid tile. Right, that's all I did for like 10 hours a day. And I'm laughing while you're saying it's the happiest you ever were. It's the happiest I ever was.
Exactly.
And there is something so amazing about manual labor, but just, I don't know, it's just a different kind of job. There's so much more fulfillment. Right?
Definitely. And for me, like Blake grew up doing laborious work. So it wasn't too out of the norm for you.
It was pretty normal for me, yeah.
For me, like I had never, ever, ever like gotten blisters on my hands and like calluses and stuff. And it was the first time I remember looking at you one day when we were at the wharf, and I told Blake, for the first time in my life, I understand like the value of making $1. Like I understand like hard work, and it was just really awesome. Our lives were so simple. They were so simple. We were working minimum wage.
We didn't have internet payment. We didn't have a cable payment. We didn't have phone payments.
A house payment.
Like, we just lost all these payments and all these so our cost of living was so much lower. We didn't need to make as much money, and we just had what we had in a few bags.
Yeah,
and
we carried everything with us in backpacks.
It was just so simple. We could move wherever we wanted.
So much less noise.
No, it's the truth. I mean, and I hope, and I'll reference it right now, I hope during the middle of this coronavirus, I hope that people are understanding, what it's teaching me is you don't need all this BS. I mean, you don't, like, I have, push-up bars and my bike, and like, I'm good. Like, don't get me wrong, I want to go to a gym, but like, you're realizing that you don't need all this crap, guys. Everybody has so much crap. And every book that I read, I feel like they're saying the same thing. Simplify your life. Like everything. Like the distractions, the extra payments. You're almost, what I think it is, it's hard to explain because it would need more context, but I almost feel like you get to a point in your life where with the bills wise and like just everything in general, you almost force yourself to be more stressed because there's so much thing. Like, perfect example, when I started out investing, I was like, you know what? I want 200 houses. That's what I want. I'm going to be successful. And I thought to myself, whoa, it's 200 mortgages. That's 200 problems. I don't want any of those things. Exactly. And so like, it's funny how like, you're like, no. I want to like make passive income. Right. And I want to like live in New Zealand. Right.
Exactly.
And so you're working, you're figuring out your house sitting. And then what happened next?
Well, basically we did that for the whole year.
And we didn't have a plan. Like we went in thinking maybe a year in New Zealand is what we needed. And then maybe we could go back home. And, maybe that was like the little adventure we were looking for.
Yeah, but it was like 10 months in, we were like, we both had looked at each other like, we're definitely not going back to the States now. Yeah,
we're like, now that we've experienced this life and we've adjusted and kind of like shed some of the habits and the old ways of thinking, now we're ready to move forward. Like we don't want to go back to what we ran away from.
So once again, we sold all our possessions, which again, it was only our car. It was only our car this time. So it was much easier.
Well, and we paid a lot forward, like all of our friends. So we met a lot of foreigners, it's the most amazing thing about a working holiday visa.
Yeah.
Meeting all the foreigners from all over the world that are there looking and doing for like the exact same things that we were doing. and were looking for like the exact same things we were looking for. And so we gifted a lot of the little things we had collected to people that we knew.
So where'd you go next?
We decided to apply for the working holiday visa in Australia, and we were like, it's just across the ocean right there, a little 3-hour flight. So we applied for the visa, and we just got the cheapest flight we could from New Zealand to Australia, and that ended up being into Gold Coast. So that's where we flew into, and then I'll let Barbara take over from there.
Yeah, so Gold Coast is about an hour south of Brisbane, just for reference. But yeah, we flew into Gold Coast and then had that exact same moment of like stress and anxiety that we had in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. You know, whenever you're changing, it's hard. Change is not easy. And that's the number one thing that kind of is frustrating, is when people say like, oh, I wish I could do that, but it's easy for you. It's hard for me. And it's like, no, it was really hard for us too. So I just kind of want to throw that out there.
No, it's 100%. I've got a friend right now, and I just use stuff in my life that's happening like right now. I have a friend right now who heard my first podcast, and he said, hey, I'm an alcoholic. I've been an alcoholic for a long time. You're sober now. I want to get sober. And so he's been sober like 3 days, right? And he texts me. He said, I'm getting mad at myself. I'm like, hey, you've been an alcoholic for 20 years. It doesn't happen in one day. And that's what we're saying, guys. Change. You got to, like, my 2019 quote was lean in, right? Uh-huh. And that's what it's so funny that you say that, because people always say, oh, it's easy for you. Well, no, it's not easy. This shit's hard as hell. Like, it was hard. You have no idea where you're going to live. You're just trying to figure it out. But in figuring it out, there is some sort of kind of like aha, but almost joy moments in there, not knowing, right? I feel like in life, a lot of people have everything so planned out. And it's like life, you have to create space for magic to happen, right?
Exactly.
And, you know what I'm saying? And when when we went to Europe for 8 weeks, we never planned anything. We booked Airbnbs while we were driving, because you might meet that host and he's pretty great and you might want to stay longer, or you hate that host and you want to leave. So like, we didn't want to put restrictions. And I think, and if that's your personality and you want to like plan, I totally get that. But you're not allowing any spontaneity to get in there, create magic, right?
Definitely. And then when opportunities arise, a lot of people will turn them down automatically because they have this other path or this other plan of where they're supposed to go.
Yeah. Life is happening. I'll quote Tony Robbins. Life is happening for you, not to you. And so you don't know where this path will take you. But if you carry a perspective of positivity and wonder, right? I think one of the things that really excites me is I'm nastily curious. Like, I'm so curious. And I think that gets me into some certain situations, but it also creates like I still think about, true story, I'll tell you, because I know enough Spanish to not get knifed in an alley at this time, but I don't know a lot, right?
Okay.
We were in Cordoba, Spain, and the guy was a history teacher for 30 years. He bought a 200-year-old building and remodeled it, right? A courtyard through the middle. And he says, hey, I really like you. Do you want to come to dinner for my wife's birthday? And I was like, hell yeah. He's cooking pizza on the oven. I have no idea what anybody's saying. My wife knows a little, she's talking to them. But I'm just like some American sitting there, like, having pizza. And he like gave me like a 30-year-old whiskey. But that's what I'm talking about. It's like, you have to be open to let magic happen to you in your life, right?
Definitely.
And that's what you're having during this trip. You're in New Zealand, So you're in the Gold Coast. You're having that same feeling again. And then where did you find work this time?
So we both started working hospitality jobs, which it should be noted for anyone wanting to do a working holiday visa. When we were living in New Zealand, minimum wage was $16 an hour. So I'm assuming it's higher than that now. And then in Australia, it was $20 an hour.
Yeah.
So yes, you're working in minimum wage jobs, but it's still like enough money to do, and to live and have a great life. So we started working at Hurricane's Grill, which is like a steak and seafood restaurant kind of right there on the coast in the Seoul building. And 3 months in, So I was just waitressing, and then Blake was bartending. And 3 months in, they asked to sponsor me, which sponsorship means that they wanted me to move up to a management position. In doing that, I get paid a salary, and I get a 4-year visa with the opportunity to apply for PR or permanent residency at the end of the 4 years. So we jumped on that.
Yeah,
we loved Australia.
When we thought about it, it's like a 4-year visa. Like the salaries are super good, and so yeah, we jumped right on that. We're like, at least we can stay for 4 years, and if not, we can become Australian citizens and get another passport.
Definitely.
So it was a win-win.
That's perfect.
So it was. So we did this for 2 years, and in this process of us working, they also moved Blake up to bar manager. So I was restaurant manager, and then Blake was managing the bar.
Well, and then about a year into that, so this is probably about a year and a half in, we decided that we'd buy an apartment there because we're like, we're going to be here for a while.
Making all this money.
So we bought an apartment, and then...
Well, then we just...
Then we kind of, about a little bit ways into it, we were like, we're kind of falling back into exactly what we left in the States. Now we have a mortgage, we have an apartment, we have bills.
We had super high stress jobs. Like Hurricanes is a super busy, it's a beautiful, amazing restaurant, but it's just super busy.
It's a 280 seat restaurant, we would serve 1,000 people a day. It was just very stressful.
And I should add, they fired a bunch of the other managers, which only left Blake and I. So Blake and I were literally managing the restaurant on opposite time schedules. So like he would work 10 a.m. to 4, and then I would work 4 to 11.
Sure.
Then like I'm a double the next day, Blake's off. So we were literally living like these separate lives.
Yep. Been there 20 years in the restaurant, and they always fire everybody. And then you wake up one day and you're working 120 hours a week and you're losing your crap because that job is so stressful. But what I want to harp on is like, once again, you finally got to a point where you don't have to worry about money. You have a nice place to live, so on and so on. So I keep getting back to the fact of how are you able to walk away and really search that life that you're truly looking for with comfort, right? I mean, I'm sure it's not comfort, but
because life in Gold Coast, we were making really good salaries. We had a beautiful apartment that was 1 block from the beach. We loved that apartment.
Like,
we still talk about it to this day.
Yeah, on paper, we were the happiest people in the world.
Sure.
But mentally in here, we were both super unhappy. And finally, it just like dawned on us. We were like, you know what? We came to this country to travel together. We worked together in New Zealand, and we really liked that. Now we're finding ourselves with like all these payments, all these bills. Like this is exactly the life we were trying to get away from.
So it
wasn't an easy decision, but it was kind of a no-brainer. Like one day we were just like, we can't do this anymore.
Sometime in April, we decided like, we're going to have to quit our job. But in doing so, we forfeit our visa. And then we also have to sell the apartment because the contingency is that we have to become permanent residents, which we had full intention of when we bought it, but circumstances changes. So we quit our job and and put our apartment up for sale. And we were like, well, what do we want to do? We've been working for the past 2 years, high stress, making all this money.
And you've got money in the bank, right? You got money in the bank.
Definitely. And when we sold our apartment, we actually made money on that too.
And you could have gone back to Kansas.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Yeah.
That was a joke. So then here's where it gets interesting. How do we get to Costa Rica?
So we were just exactly like you said. We could have gone back to Kansas, and we were like, okay, we don't want to live here. Our visa's going to end. Like, what can we do now? We don't want to go home. And then when we first got married, Blake had this dream of running like a little accommodation business in Honduras. And he really wanted to run it on Roatan, which is the island off of Honduras.
Everyone knows Roatan now, and that's exactly why we're not there.
But yeah, so then we were researching, and then it was kind of like, okay, Honduras doesn't really seem stable right now, blah, blah, blah. So we were just looking in like Central America, Caribbean. Number one, where can we afford? Number two, where is there a stable government? Like we wanted like nice locals, and we wanted like, we love like an expat community, kind of like
Sure.
all foreigners coming in. So all of our research pointed to Costa Rica, and then more specifically to Dominical Uvita area of Costa Rica.
The southern zone here. Like,
Yeah.
it was the only thing that was really in our price range. And us never coming to Costa Rica, we got in contact with a real estate office and sent them a list of potential places we wanted to look at. And in January of last year, well, just a year and a few months ago, we flew down here and looked at places, and it was
This was the third place we looked at.
The third place that we looked at was that we ended up putting an offer on the next day, and they accepted. And within 45 days, we were closing and moving down here on March 15th, which was just a little over a year ago.
So it was just like things started happening, and then they just like snowballed and kept rolling and moving really quickly for us, which was nice.
Yeah. And so just to describe this, guys, because I'll describe the place a little bit. So up a road that you need a 4-wheel drive to go, a town that is super small. Uvita is more of a surf town. Dominical got some restaurants, some bars, a grocery store, but nothing crazy. How long have they had a paved road there, the highway? It hasn't been like very long, right?
No, it's like 8 years, I think.
Okay. So there is a sense of adventure that lives inside of y'all. I think that burns pretty bright, don't you think?
Definitely.
Because basically their house is 3 stilt properties on the side of a mountain overlooking the ocean. In the rainforest, guys, and it's like, if I'll tell people for Texas, if you went to Galveston, it would be like 3 of those houses, like stilt houses, 2 bedrooms. It's amazing. There's monkeys everywhere. I mean, it's gorgeous. And so, had you ever done Airbnb before that?
No.
Okay.
So basically, Austin, we went back to Blake's dream of an accommodation business because number one, we wanted to do something that allowed us to work together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we really love spending time together. We do not like the idea of working and having these separate lives. So we wanted something that we could do together. And we also wanted something in a place, like you said, that's adventurous. Like, we love nature and being outside and doing all that. But Airbnb, no, we started fresh.
Okay.
This was our first.
But on coming here, it was like you could see there was so much potential with what you could get. And which, now it's coronavirus time, so we'll see what happens. But
sure.
At the time, we were thinking we got a steal of a deal, we thought. And I mean, we still think we do.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing property. And the Airbnb thing has worked out so well for us. We have, like we never had any experience hosting, but we've stayed in a lot of Airbnbs and met lots of hosts and talked to lots of hosts throughout our travels.
And it should be noted that Airbnb is one of the most user-friendly platforms. They make it super easy.
1,000%.
Like, upload your pictures here, type in your description here, boom.
I couldn't agree more. So what I'm trying to paint a picture of, well, first of all, what's really great is because you're like me, you also get to meet people from all over the world, but 100%. They also not hanging around either. They come for a week or two and you're like, okay, I'm good. You can leave now. Especially if they're annoying, because you are in the middle of nowhere. But you're also, the world that we're moving into with online and stuff, you do have regular jobs that you do to supplement income too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I teach English online to kids in China. It's a program called VIP Kid, which actually, if you'd want, I can share my referral link with you.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes for sure. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And that will get people right into the application process.
Yeah, and you get paid good, guys. She can do this. She picks when she works. My wife's going to do it. These are the things, guys, that you may, in life. You know what I won't do anymore? I won't hear, I'm sorry, I'm going to cuss. I won't hear any fucking excuses anymore, all right? Because everybody makes an excuse why they can't do something, why they can't do that. She is teaching English to kids in China, in the rainforest from Costa Rica, guys. Like, this is why I wanted to have this podcast, because you're making excuses, right? Why you can't do this, why you need to work in a cubicle in the middle of the winter. It's 30 degrees in Michigan. Get your life together. Be down in the rainforest. It's beautiful down there, you know? And
exactly, because like with VIP Kid, you have the potential to make $22 an hour, which
probably more than you're making in the States right now.
Well, and a lot of people ask us like, oh, how do you guys travel and how do you get to do the things that you do? And I say the number one thing you need to start with is you need to simplify your life.
Amen.
Like, I can't live in the rainforest and make money. Like, well, we can't live in the rainforest, make money on Airbnbs and make enough money with me teaching to live the life that we did in Kansas. You know what I mean? Like, we live very simple lives but very happy.
But here's what I want to do, because this is what I've dreamed of. Let's paint a picture. Let's really make people feel bad. Like, I hope somebody listens to this while it's like 140 degrees outside. I'm just making a joke. But talk about a typical day when you and Blake's a photographer too, guys. So he's got business too, and they get to go film mansions. I think they were doing a commercial the other day. I don't even know what they're doing, really. It's like a whole thing. But paint a picture of a day when you wake up and like what you do, because I know y'all have like banana trees and all that stuff. So
yes,
what does a day look like? A typical day.
So a typical day starts with me. I'll start. Blake's gonna go quiet down, Charlie. I wake up at 3 a.m. because I start teaching at 4 a.m. So then I teach from like 4 to 7 usually. And it should be like, I do it because I love it. And like I tell Blake, like, I don't even mind waking up at 3 a.m. I'm just used to it now. But anyway, so I wake up super early and teach. And while I'm doing that, you can talk about what you're doing.
I usually get up at like 4:30 or 5 and, enjoy my coffee in the hammock. And then I go down and, we're starting a garden and watering all the flowers. It's the dry season now. So just making sure everything's watered and just, cutting any dead leaves or anything, just making sure the property looks good.
Yeah, well, and he's done all sorts of projects around our property as well. But then after that, we usually come in, drink a smoothie. We have like fresh fruit growing everywhere. So we have a fresh fruit smoothie every morning.
Mangoes, bananas, papayas, coconut.
I do like a yoga and a meditation. I just find, whatever on YouTube. And then
in normal times, whenever we had Airbnb guests, we, do our checkouts and check-ins in the middle of the day. And by noon or so, we would basically be done for the day and go down for a surf, go down to Dominical, have a beer, watch the sunset, and then come home and cook dinner or something like that. But like right now, the beaches are closed, so we're not doing that. But
yeah.
And they have amazing hookups. They know all the local places. When we were there, my wife got a massage on the deck. They know chefs. They, whitewater rafting. There's a waterfall around the corner. And so really, if, I know you don't know what the future holds with Airbnb, and that is what it is right now, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm always positive. Yeah. But is this something, you moved from, New Zealand to Australia, and then you were there for a little bit. Is this something for a long period of time? We're talking, 10, 50, that you see yourself kind of continuing?
Definitely. Like, we have never had a routine and a life that we are happier with than we are right now.
Yeah,
easily.
When we talk about this place, like we want to own it forever.
100%.
Like,
and what people don't understand is there's more Americans down where y'all are than you would think. Like that whole mountain over in Uvita is all people from America, that are retired.
America, Europe, Canada. Yeah.
Exactly. And the restaurants down there are amazing. You sit outside, you have a nice smoothie, kombucha. The food's great. But there is, I think what people would have a problem with is it's a different lifestyle, for sure. For me, I'm not ready for that yet. I like it for like a week or two, but like I go hard. So,
Exactly. Which this goes back to us, like why we had that initial freak out in New Zealand, because we had to learn how to do things at a slower pace, which is super hard when you've been living in America, right? Like go, 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 productivity, efficiency, so that was super hard, but now we absolutely love it.
Yeah.
We like, yes, we want to be here forever and we want to own our property. But the thing with Airbnb is that we can be renting out 3 houses, plus Blake manages a couple of our neighbors' houses as well. So we can be renting out all these houses and find a property manager, and we can be over in Spain with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like,
yeah. Oh, that's happening for sure. Don't worry about
it.
So just so you know, I decided something yesterday. I'm over, like, see, y'all are lucky. You don't have to deal with Corona in America. These people are crazy. Okay. Like they're taking all the toilet paper. It's insane. Right. So what I decided is I'm going to buy an island, and it's going to be called Linney Land. And what we're going to do is we're going to have 10 cabins on the other side, and all my friends have standing reservations at all times, but it's going to be my island, and that's where we're going to spend our time.
Exactly.
Like, I'm going to have an Ironman training thing on there, you know, like a ship in a shipping container. And I'm just going to do virtual, because you know what they've been doing? Kind of crazy. They've been doing virtual Ironmans right now. So they're doing them like, they're doing them like, yeah. So I'm like, yeah, just do that. So why did y'all talk about buying an island too?
Yes, we did. Yeah, like literally just the other day, Blake was like, tell them it was your idea.
Everyone always wants an island. I'm like, now we need an island for, isolation and just protection. It's a good investment.
For sure. And it's funny, it's funny. Life, everybody wants to focus on the negatives, but I'm gonna drop a couple facts for you. This is the first time that you've been able to see the hills in LA in like 30 years, and the water in Venice is clear. And they showed a satellite video of Italy, and there was no pollution over the country. And so maybe Mother Nature is telling you to chill the F out, man. Maybe she's telling you to slow down a little bit. The thing is this: I have a high performance coach who's an endurance runner, and he said something to me 3 months ago that has forever changed my life. He said, Austin, the number one problem that you'll have to understand in life is there's nowhere to get. He said, there's nowhere to get. There's always going to be another deal. There's always going to be another property. There's always going to be another wholesale. So the reason I started this podcast was life is not about where you're trying to go. It's who you become in the process, right? And who you do it with is the most important thing. And the reason I brought you onto the podcast is I want to show people that there's another way to do it. And you can have that great life. But the question that you have to ask yourself every day when you wake up is, are you living the life that you looked at? Because I know there's a lot of people that wake up at 45 and 40 and they're like, how did I get here? Right? How am I paying for a car that I can't afford? How am I paying for a house that I can't afford? And if you simplify your life, you'd be amazed how much freer you feel and I'm guilty of it. I'm so guilty of it too. I'm trying to, we had goals. Life happens. We had goals to pay off all of our debt in the next 2 months, and Corona happened. Yeah. So now we got to revisit that because I don't have an income right now, just my properties, but we'll figure it out, and the thing is that
you'll figure it out together as a
100%. And the thing is that when you're, my coach he's lived in Costa Rica 20 years now. And then you have Tyler and them are down there, and so many good stuff, right? So why don't you tell people? I know you have an Instagram, you have a website. Tell them how they can find your place if they were to travel to Costa Rica, and they can, and all that stuff.
Excellent. So our place is called Escaleras Escape, and that is also our tag on Instagram. And we are located in between Dominical and Uvita, which is in the southern Pacific side of Costa Rica. So we have some of the best surf waves here are just right outside our door. We have the jungle, the rainforest, waterfalls, whitewater rafting, zip lining, whales, dolphins. It's here.
No, they got everything. It's perfect. It's super small town. Not like San Jose and stuff like that. So much for coming on. The links and how they find your place, and guys, when this gets over, the Corona, Everybody go visit.
Yes. And Austin, thank you so much for having us. This was so much fun. And in such a time where we needed just a good conversation and a catch up with an old friend, it's
perfect. And we're guys, just so you know, we're going to talk after this stuff. So I just want to make sure they're doing good. So thank y'all so much, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, share us, review us, send it to your friends, send everybody out. It's a perfect episode. I'm super pumped. And thank y'all so much.
Thanks, Austin. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.